Okay, well, good evening. My name is David Rowley. I'm a professor in the URI College of Pharmacy, and specifically, I teach in the Pharmaceutical Sciences program. This is a program where we train people to become professionals in pharmaceutical industry. People go off and become doctors. They have MBAs. They follow various different career paths. We don't know where they'll go, but tonight we have 5 amazing alumni of the PharmSci program at URI here to tell us their stories and their perspectives on, where they're traveling to in their careers. Tonight we have an amazing moderator to help up with facilitating this discussion. Her name is Tara Marie Joanna. She is currently a master's student. She got her Bachelor of Science in Pharmaceutical Sciences, is now pursuing a master's. She is also a professional science writer, and so she freelances and will be pursuing a professional career in this area. So she brings a unique perspective to all of this as well, and possibly a future physician, although we'll see where life takes her. So without me chewing up any more time, Tara, please take it away.
Sure. Thank you so much for the introduction. I'm really excited to be able to moderate this panel. I love my time at the University of Rhode Island so much that I came back to do my master's degree here. And so this is not necessarily about me, although I'm really excited to hear the perspectives of other alumni of this program. I'm sure that we shared a lot of the same opinions and experiences, and that's what's led us to having really good and fulfilled careers right now. So I would like for each person on the panel right now just to give an introduction of yourself. I know your graduation years are on the screen, but mention when you graduated, your time at URI, any majors, minors, anything that you feel is an important introductory fact about you, and then we'll go from there. I have Megan is the first person on my screen. So if you'd like to start, and then we can just go around. Everybody just jump in and speak when you can.
Yeah, so my name is Megan Fournier. I graduated in May 2021 with a major in pharmaceutical sciences and a minor in leadership studies. I kind of found out pretty early on in my career that I didn't necessarily want to do like research. And so I started networking during my time at URI, mainly through the mentoring program, and determined I kind of wanted to go into medical device. And now I am in Tampa, Florida, working for a small aesthetic company where I'm an account manager. And I work with their body contouring laser, the Eon laser.
Hi, everyone. My name is Lea Air. I graduated from URI in 2018 with a major in pharmaceutical science and a minor in business. Similar to Megan, I discovered through the course of my time at URI that I didn't necessarily want to work in a lab or a clinical setting. And I was actually more interested in the business and marketing side of pharmacy and biotech. So I'm currently working at a biotech company based in Cambridge, Massachusetts, called Foundation Medicine. And our company offers genomic testing specifically for cancer patients to guide their treatment decisions and to help make sure that their doctors are making informed treatment decisions. And it has been awesome. I got a lot out of my time at URI, and adding the business minor really helped me to, have a foot in the door within the business and marketing side of pharmacy.
I have Anna next on my screen.
Yeah, so I graduated from URI in 2018, and I am currently working at Vertex Pharmaceuticals right in Providence. I only majored in pharmaceutical sciences, was actually going back and forth between getting a minor in business and didn't end up doing that, but a lot of people did. So I think that's a great idea. And I really enjoyed my time at URI doing the major as well. I knew I kind of wanted to be more hands-on in the lab, which is really what I'm doing now. Didn't really want to do kind of desk research work. And so I'm in the lab helping test medical devices, and it's been a great first year so far at Vertex. So.
Hi, everyone. My name is Rachel Smilanski. I graduated from the University of Rhode Island with my BS in Pharmaceutical Sciences in 2020. And then I stayed at URI to get my MBA also. So I was able to complete that within 1 year and graduated with everything finally in May of 2021. So shortly after graduating, I went on to work at Johnson & Johnson. I'm more in an operations role. So it's within clinical operations. So it does utilize a little bit, of the science background, but it has been so helpful for me to also have the business side also, in my education. And I also did a business minor while in my time at URI, which kind of led me towards the MBA. I was deciding whether I wanted to do more of like a science heavy master's or business. And much like the other panel members, I felt like my skills are more aligned with kind of the business side of the pharmaceutical industry rather than being in the lab. So yeah, it's really nice to be here tonight.
All right, I guess that leaves me. So I'm Julie. I graduated from the University of Rhode Island in 2016. I've been at a couple of companies in those, 6 years. So I started off at Rhodes Pharmaceuticals in a small molecule manufacturing company. Actually worked with Anna there. So it's a small industry, and I've come across a lot of other URI grads. Hiring managers do get excited when they see this. I'm actually now a hiring manager. So I went through a contract position at Rubius Therapeutics in Smithfield. And then ultimately I started my most recent job at Moderna. So I started on the QA tech transfer team, and now I'm the supervisor of that team, managing the quality oversight of all of our clinical tech transfers and, any new products that we're bringing to the market. So it's really fast paced, and it was really suited for my skills. And I think the thing that sets my group apart at Moderna is that we have that science background, and that's what makes us, the process overview specialist versus just normal QA, which is, a very different skill set. So it's been really beneficial in the role, and was able to move up.
So thank you all of you for introducing yourselves. And so I think I'm going to have us rewind a little between 5 and 10 years back, because while we're all in careers or graduate school or completed that by now, a lot of the people watching this panel are just beginning their careers as college students, finishing up high school, deciding where they want to pursue their bachelor's degree, whether or not they want to pursue a bachelor's degree in pharmaceutical sciences. So I'd hope that each one of you can be able to go around and say, one of the reasons that you chose this major in particular, and also why you chose URI. What's the pull factor that brought you here and then got you to stay? Like I stayed for my master's, Rachel stayed also for her master's. So there clearly was something that made URI special. And I'll leave the floor to you guys.
Sure. I can start again. So I'm from Maine, and what really appealed to me about URI was that it was kind of like a nice distance of like, it was 3 hours away from home. So I was still away from home, but not necessarily living at home. And I originally wanted to go into the PharmD program, but after doing some research, I realized that this major was actually available. And I was like, maybe this is better set because I can still help people in a different way without necessarily being set on a direct, PharmD path. And this way I can maybe graduate in 4 years and get a job. And, it was such a broad major. I mean, we all are in kind of different fields. And then if I really wanted to, I could go back and do the schooling and, become a pharmacist.
Yeah, just to go off of that, I kind of had the same thought process coming in. So the reason I chose URI originally is because I was recruited to play tennis at URI. And well, I come from Philadelphia, PA, so I'm kind of from a city, and I was looking at a broad range of schools kind of in the Northeast New England area. And when I came to visit URI to meet the team and the coaches, I also just totally fell in love with the area, like the school, the campus is so beautiful, and just kind of being in more of like a serene environment rather than a, crazy city. I just loved it, and having the ocean there, it was always like a source of peace for me throughout my 5 years. But with the College of Pharmacy specifically, I wasn't sure. I knew I wanted to pursue a STEM major, but I wasn't exactly sure. And I have family that is in the pharmaceutical industry. So I looked into a PharmD, and then also stumbled across the pharmaceutical sciences major and thought it was very unique. And I hadn't really heard much of it before. And when I looked more into it, it looked like there were so many different career paths that you can have with this major that maybe necessarily you wouldn't have with a PharmD or something like that, that kind of gives you more of a direct route. I feel like with Pharm Sci, you really have kind of the world is your oyster, and you don't even need to be in the pharmaceutical industry. After you graduate, any industry would love kind of this science heavy background and having the knowledge of pharmacy. But I mean, you could really go in to consulting or to the business world or anything like that and be fully prepared, especially if you add a minor that kind of gears towards your interests. But yeah, that's definitely why I chose this major.
I totally agree with Rachel. That is exactly why I chose this major too. I wasn't sure if I wanted to do my doctorate program at the time and go for 6 years. So this 4-year program really was unique and helpful, and you can just do so many things with it afterwards. I know a lot of people in this major just went to so many different paths. So it was really nice to have that option to do. I think actually every single time I visited URI while trying to decide to come here, it was pouring rain like the whole time.
It was snowing for me in October, so I don't get it.
Every time it was just pouring rain, the whole campus was flooded. But something literally just kept bringing me back. I think I probably visited 3 times before I settled on URI, but loved being at the beach. I'm from Massachusetts, so it really wasn't that far of a drive. I knew I didn't want to go to school within like half-hour driving distance of where I lived. So it was kind of nice to be able to have URI right there.
Yeah, so I just kind of want to add on. I don't want to sound like I'm downplaying the PharmD program at all. It's a wonderful program. I know a lot of people who graduated from BSPS and went on to do an additional 2-3 years at a different school to get their PharmD because, you know, they went through the BSPS and found out that's exactly what they wanted. For me, it was the exact opposite. I looked at my friends who were still in school for the next 2 years. And in my first year in the industry, I bought a house because, you know, I was able to make a salary, start paying off my student loans. I got some internships through the BSPS program. I was part of RI Inbray. And so it was a summer program where I worked. I was able to start paying off my student loans because they actually paid you to do research. And there's so many different programs like that around the country. You can go out there and they'll pay for you to stay there and work full time in a lab. And you know, you make money while figuring out, is lab work for me or is lab work not for me? That's what they always say, you know, you get a positive outcome out of it because you get to find out where your path is going to take you. And for me, you know, I liked it. I did apply to be in the lab, but ended up going into quality just by chance. But yeah, when I left college, I felt very, very prepared for the real world. And, you know, a lot of my friends that I graduated with, I see other people nodding. You know, I kind of had more direction on where I want to apply and what I want to do. And, you know, it's nice to have a career that can support you after 4 years.
Totally agree. Similar themes to some of you too. I had come into the program thinking that I was definitely going to either switch to PharmD or do an additional 2 years after I had graduated. And because I realized kind of early on that I wasn't really interested in the lab and clinical setting, that's when I started to think, what else can I do with this degree? Are there minors that I can add, which is why I ended up adding the business minor that would open still careers that I would need that clinical background and knowledge, but just allow me to branch out and look into other things that I would really be interested in. So I'm very happy that I ended up sticking with the BSPS program. I think what ended up selling me on URI for that program, I did look at a couple. I'm also from Massachusetts and was looking at some within Boston. And I really, when I got to URI, I loved just the campus feel and the campus setting. Like it really felt like the college experience that I had always thought of rather than living in the city. So everything about about the visits and the campus and the program, I'm so happy that I moved forward with that.
A lot of you guys talk about, some of the benefits that you found from the pharmaceutical sciences program in your current careers, and we talk about why we chose the BSPS degree, and it is a little bit more unknown among all of the other traditional STEM degrees. So if any of you guys could elaborate on what you think distinguishes the pharmaceutical sciences degree from more traditional STEM degrees, and I'm using examples of just why didn't you get a BA or BS in biology or in chemistry? I know those courses are obviously integrated into our major, but what did you feel was the distinguishing factor of this major in particular that's led you to be prepared for the wide variety of careers that you guys have decided to pursue?
Yeah, so I can hop into this one. I've talked up this major so many times. It's when people hear about it, they really have no idea what it is. And then I start explaining, you're learning biochemistry, microbiology, organic chemistry. And then you also have your formulations and your dosage forms. You're learning these things and applying them in the next class. So it's not just all the times you learn math and you're like, how is this going to help me? You learn science, how is this going to help me? And the BSPS program, they brought together different courses with actual professors who are doing research and showing you how you can apply HPLC chromatography to a science experiment and just start making those connections early. It was huge. It really felt worthwhile.
I think one of the things that stands out to me about the major is just the wide variety of career choices, I guess, but even thinking about just the expansion of therapeutics, biotech companies, everything in the time that we are graduating and the time we're entering into, that space is just, it's expanding. Every year there's so many new options and new therapies and new discoveries that it really does allow so many options for when you graduate. And to really be a part of something that's constantly growing and evolving in just a way that's so exciting.
I would love to add, with this program, you kind of take these base classes like Julie was talking about, and they kind of build upon each other. And then your last year here, you spend taking these elective classes that you as a student get to pick. So it's not like everyone in your class is taking the same exact elective. So you kind of get to gear what you've been learning towards something that you're interested in.
If you guys have examples of any of those electives or courses you have, feel free to talk about them as well, but continue, Rachel.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. The electives are great. I think they definitely allow you to kind of pursue more of your interests. If you want to do more research and be in the lab, you can do that. You could be a research assistant, make that count for electives for people that want to be in the lab. That's a great experience. And we have great professors doing research. And then, you have your natural products and kind of that whole side of the industry. They have, and kind of going to the point of how the industry is progressing, you can do a bioinformatics elective or something like that, which is so useful. And honestly, not even just in pharma, but in general, because it's big on data and machine learning and things like that are all just the buzzwords of today. So yeah, definitely the electives are huge.
Yeah, I think my senior year, I took 2, maybe 3 classes, and then the rest of it was lab hours. So I worked my entire Friday, 6 hours, and I got course credit for it. And then I was able to go a little lighter on my course load as I was getting ready for graduation.
Yeah, I think that one of my favorite classes, and I can just remember it off the top of my head because it was honestly really fun to go to, was our Formulations Lab. We actually made aspirin one day in class. And I kind of knew then that this was honestly the program for me, just because I loved actually being involved with the substance and learning about it and making it. And it's something that people use on a daily basis. And just the fact that I'm able to explain how to make this drug was kind of really exciting. And that led me to one of my first internships, which was in formulations, which is exactly what I was doing. So I think that was really cool. I didn't want to just kind of do biology or just major in chemistry. But the fact that we're learning kind of all this variety in this one major was really cool and really helped a lot. I really enjoyed it.
I feel like I relate to all of you. I loved all of the introductory like base courses that we took, whether it was like anatomy or biochemistry, because I think it set a really good foundation. But then it was in those later years when we took things like pharmacology and pharmacokinetics, and you're learning how our liver metabolizes certain drugs. And then you learn what that drug is, and then you learn the structure of that drug. And you feel like every course, you go from room to room, from class to class throughout the week, you feel like it all creates one big story. And then it all comes together in a way that maybe a traditional biology or biochemistry or chemistry or engineering degree doesn't necessarily do. And you're able to write your own story as you move into your senior year and choose those kinds of electives. So I'm glad to see that everybody else had a very similar experience. I like to say that not a single student that graduates from the pharmaceutical science program has the exact same tailored curriculum. We all end up pursuing different electives. We all pursue different minors or different courses on the side. And that's why I think what makes each one of us a unique candidate when entering the job market, because we have all the same base foundation, but we've each tailored our curriculum in a way that suits us. And I think that gives me to another transition. In addition to just curriculums, college is not just about going to classes. There's so many other things that goes into the college experience before you go into a career or into further graduate school. So if you could touch up on any of your aha moments, whether it was in a lab, pursuing research, an internship that you got unexpectedly, any fellowships, study abroad, especially pre-COVID, these are things that a lot of people ended up pursuing. So each one of you, I think that's what probably also distinguished your college experience and led you into the job you're in now. So if you'd like to just touch upon that before we talk about what you're doing in your current role, that'd be great.
I can start with one that I think maybe a few people here may have been involved in, the mentor program that the BSPS program has. And that was a major, I think, like milestone in my college career at URI. I had 2 different mentors. So I did it 2 years, my senior and my junior year. And I think just understanding that being from URI and being a part of the BSPS program really does create this great network and these people who are really willing to help. And even if it's just something as simple as reviewing a cover letter or giving insights or information into their career path, it just seemed like it really was like a tight-knit community that I could rely on in the future if I needed help with really anything. So I've seen that from a number of different graduates and other people in the mentor program. So that was a great part of my experience.
I would love to add on to that too, because that's exactly kind of what helped me decide where I wanted to go after college. With my 2021 graduating class, I kind of felt alone in terms of like, I was the only one who wanted to go onto the business side of things. I feel like a lot of my fellow classmates wanted to do research or manufacturing. And so the mentoring program was a great opportunity to be able to connect with alumni who could give me some feedback in terms of like sales and the business side of pharmaceutics after graduating. And so I also did it 2 years and I had 2 different mentors and they both gave great perspectives that I was able to kind of take and tailor into my own experiences.
Yeah, so I guess not BSPS related, but I just love URI. I joined a sorority and I was an RA on campus, and I was just always involved in something. It was really fun. I mean, I learned a lot of skills like from both of those. Actually, you wouldn't think from a sorority, but like all the recruitment things that I learned, I use in my hiring process. I use my RA skills to help my team and work through problems. In quality assurance, we have to work with like every different department, and we're kind of like the person who steps back and looks at everything and kind of has to come up with like a different viewpoint. And being an RA and getting that opportunity, I definitely feel like I'm applying it and I get to pull skills from there all the time. And my last semester, I moved off campus and lived by the beach. So nothing to complain.
That's the best part of being a URI student, is when you finally move off campus and live literally steps from the ocean. Like, who else can say that they lived on the beach in college?
I think that was like our main requirement. Our senior year, we had to have be a house within walking distance of the beach. My favorite part. But I totally agree with you, Julie. I love being involved no matter what I did at URI. I was being involved. I was in a sorority. I was working on campus at the Ryan Center all 4 years. And then I was doing internships starting my sophomore year all the way into my senior year. And just, I think those internships really helped me kind of see what I wanted to do and what I liked and what I didn't like. And so just using all that experience and kind of meeting people and networking really was a big part of kind of where my career led me now, I guess.
Yeah, I definitely can agree to that. I had an internship in the Ryan Center, which actually counted as credit towards my MBA. And then I was a student athlete all 5 years, which just teaches you how to balance, you know, basically 2 full-time responsibilities. And it has definitely helped me in my career today. And then I think it was after my junior year at URI, I interned at Pfizer, and the hiring manager there was actually a URI grad. And I would like to think that helped me land the internship. And I will say, talking about BSPS in the interview for that internship, you can just tell how people kind of get impressed when they hear about this major, because they may have not heard about it before. And then when you kind of get into all of the base coursework and the pharmacy specific coursework, and then your electives and everything else, the research that you have the opportunity to be involved in, it is very impressive to hiring managers for internships and for your full-time career after you graduate.
Yeah, it's also interesting to people too. They want to know more about the program. They ask a lot of questions, and it's genuinely interesting to people.
Yeah, and I forget the name of the course, but Erin has it for the BSPS majors, but where they bring in alumni, kind of like us, and people come in, people who have been in the industry for, 15, 20 years. And I think that was a big part. I don't know about you guys, but that's when I realized how many different things you can do. Because you hear people who have been in the industry for 10 years and they've taken 3 or 4 different jobs. They were offered a completely different opportunity from what they were doing and decided to go for it. And hearing from that and actually having a class where you write your resume and write your cover letter, like that is something that they always say, it's one of those things they should teach in college, and they do in this class. So.
Oh, yes. I mean, at the time, I don't think I really appreciated the value of it, but yeah. I certainly did later on. I think I still use essentially like a edited version of that resume and cover letter that we made freshman year.
I definitely do, yeah.
That time.
I think I still have that same format, and it's worked very well. So.
Yeah. I offer to edit all my friends' resumes because I'm like, I took workshops on this. I didn't want to tell them I took a class, but yeah, I'm like, I have all these skills. I can tell you what they're looking for.
Yeah.
I definitely agree with you that people really love to hear about the BSPS program. The job that I currently have as a science writer that Dr. Rowley mentioned, I think one of the pivotal reasons that I ended up getting the job was that when I told my interviewers about what the major encompasses, they were just so intrigued. At first they were like, "Are you a PharmD?" And I'm like, "No, but I can bring all of these other skills to the table. And I've done research and I've taken all of these courses, and now I can apply it all to writing I took technical writing actually as one of my pharmaceutical science elective, which translated to me being a science writer now. So I guess it goes to show that you can really take whatever you want in terms of courses, and then you can leverage all of what you learned to get you a really good job. And so I know pharmaceutical sciences has a big focus in research, whether or not people decide they want to pursue research after graduation. I think what's nice is that students are exposed to it regardless in a classroom setting or through independent research. If any of you guys would like to reflect upon the research that you did and why it may have led you to a more research-based role or didn't lead you to one, I think the benefit comes is that you were exposed to it regardless, so then you can make that informed decision.
So one of my favorite labs that I took in my time at URI was the natural products lab. I think it was we went out into the garden, the infamous, medicinal plants garden. And I was amazed by that, by the way, like just the amount of, variety that we have there, pretty much any plant you can imagine. And I think my team, we chose aloe, and we just snapped off a piece of aloe from the aloe plant and spent, half the semester researching the medicinal properties of aloe, and actually being able to kind of see what you're doing come to life, and actually see the properties of aloe that are benefiting people. And to do that at 19, 20 years old, when it's really cool, and it kind of puts everything in perspective. I obviously am not in a research role, but I did really enjoy the labs, and I valued that experience. I just kind of knew that it wasn't necessarily where my skills were going to be best applied, but that's not to say that I didn't enjoy the labs. I definitely did, especially the Formulations Lab as well. We were making lotions and different, just daily things that people are using. And it was very cool to see that come to life.
Totally agree with you, Rachel. The natural products lab was one of my favorites too. And I think even if you don't end up in a lab setting or a clinical setting in your career, just working within a team and kind of seeing what the typical lab process is really applicable to anything you're going to do. Any type of work you're going to do with a team in your career, that is so valuable, and being able to problem solve and kind of backtrack and figure out where you may have gone wrong, that has really been so transferable to so many areas. So even though I didn't end up in research, I'm so glad that I was a part of all of that.
Yeah, so I was in 2 different labs, a total of 5 semesters, and then 1 summer in the RI Embray program. Was a continuation of my research. So I worked on formulating gold nanoparticles, and it was an anti-cancer phototherapy. It was really awesome. I would say the best part of that was my summer internship, because it was a 40-hour internship. You kind of come in and you're working full time in a lab. So it's not like you just go in for a class and you leave. You actually found out what it's like to come in and have an adult job and kind of start running my own experiments and keeping lab notes. It was really awesome. I found out that I love it. I did apply for jobs like that when I got out, and landed where I did just by chance, but definitely really liked that. And then the other lab that I was in, it was for alcoholism and diabetes, I believe. It was Dr. Arklagi's lab. So it was really cool. I got to run these assays. I got to do all different types of things. I was doing animal studies when I was working on nanoparticles. I got to work on making cells in petri dishes. Just kind of a really good exposure to everything. And hiring managers were like, wow.
You did that?
Yeah, it was weird. It was I can speak to it. And I'm actually a author on a scientific paper that got published. So I'm the 3rd author. So not really much,
nice.
But through being an undergrad. So that's kind of a cool thing I keep in my back pocket.
Yeah, I didn't end up going the research route either. I definitely did like being in labs and being hands-on. I was doing more of, I guess, GMP and formulating and analytical development in our labs. More hands-on, more methods were in place, very little research. And it was kind of nice following protocols and just being able to figure out kind of what works and what doesn't. Little bit of research involved, but I really just liked being able to to help develop drugs and kind of help, being more in, I guess, I don't know, more involved with building up drugs rather than researching it.
Yeah, my senior year, I did Dr. Cho's 3D printing lab. And what I love so much about it is you pick a molecule that you're interested in, and then all semester you spend time looking at like some research papers to decipher like different receptors and things you want to highlight on your molecule. And at the end of the semester, you get to 3D print it and actually see that molecule come to life. This kind of plays into what I do now, specifically with reading scientific papers. I deal with a lot of plastic surgeons that have done, some papers that they've written, and being on the sales side of things, like you want to be up to date on what your doctors are doing and what they've wrote about. And so I am reading quite a bit of papers.
I think the greatest summary of like everything that you said was that the PharmSci program gives you experience of like all different forms or like every step of the drug development process. So whether you need the background of like the academics of it, like how a drug works on a specific receptor, you get that in pharmacology. You get classes then that give you that introductory kind of research. Then you also get to the very end of it of, okay, now we have a drug and it's going to hit the market. How do we formulate it? And so then we get labs and experiences where we do formulations. I also really love the natural products medicinal chemistry lab. And that's why I ended up pursuing my master's degree in that as well. And whether or not I end up ever pursuing a career where I'll be on the floor running HPLCs or mass specs or doing ELISA, the fact that you're able to say that you've done that and you know how that works is so, so useful. Those kinds of words really become buzzwords on your resume and sometimes gets your application or your resume looked at. Oftentimes, especially if it's like a robotic like screener. So knowing what those are, and then you make it to the interview phase and you're like, yep, I did that in class, and they're shocked. But at the same time, it's a benefit that comes from this major in particular. So wherever you are in the drug development process, whether you're at the very end dealing with patients or dealing with clients, or at the very beginning in research, this major gives you that background. And gives you that preparation. And so I think that's the perfect segue into, so now we've made it through all of college. We've led you guys on that. We've led our audience on this story of how you guys have gone through college. And now it's time for that very first job. And how do you feel that URI prepared you for your first job? Some of you are still in that very first job after graduation, and others are maybe in their second or third one after graduation. So if you care to share how that started, that transition from being a college student with a very rigid schedule to then entering the market. And there's a variety of schedules that kind of come with that and a variety of opportunities that are available to you. And how did URI help you make that decision and make an informed decision? And what have you done since then? So kind of loaded question, but take the floor.
All right, well, I'll go. So I was hired into my first job after the industry, actually at the exact same time as another URI grad. They posted one position, but they couldn't decide between both of us. So they hired both of us. And, it did help, definitely. I would say the GMP classes, good manufacturing practices, they were surprised that we'd even heard of that rather than, actually have taken a course on it and have that head start. So I will say there's a lot of things to learn. Anytime you take another job, I'm not going to say it's easy to just enter the industry, everything, but you definitely have a leg up on other people who, are still working on how to make the science fit into what they're trying to do. So it definitely, when people started explaining things to me, I connected the dots a lot quicker than some of my colleagues. And, I was promoted after the first year, and so was my colleague, because, they took us in as a college grad, and just in a year, we grew so much that they wanted to invest in us and move us up.
Definitely agree with you, Julie. I know when I first started my job, we had a week-long onboarding process that did focus a lot on kind of the scientific and clinical background of the testing that our company offers, even for people who were in departments that were not related to the clinical background. So even learning things like drug terminology, understanding the FDA approval process or clinical trial process, things like that, we just had so much exposure to throughout our time at URI. that really allowed me to kind of jump in and not be so overwhelmed in like learning these little things and really kind of getting more comfortable in the role that I was going into, rather than being overwhelmed by just all of this information right as I'm starting a full-time job. So that helped a ton.
I agree. Learning about the kind of life cycle of a drug from preclinical all the way through all the phases of the clinical trials on to, you know, post-market and things like that are, I mean, I'm in early clinical phase trials in my job, and just having that background knowledge was huge, because in my department that we do have people from all different backgrounds, not necessarily, you know, coming from a pharmacy background, but I can definitely say that I felt kind of ahead of the pack just having that knowledge. And we also had a very extensive onboarding process through which half of I was kind of able to skip through, just because I already had that background, which is really good. And, you know, it's been 8 months since I started my first role, and I was just told yesterday actually that I'm getting promoted. So, you know, thanks. But I really don't think I would be in this position if I didn't have the well-rounded background from URI with the pharmacy and the business kind of coming together in this role.
So I actually I was at my first job for 3 years right after college, and I had heard about that internship or that position through someone who I graduated with at URI who had that internship prior. So she actually was able to tell us about the company and what she did when she worked for them. And she was just knowing someone and networking. She literally was able to tell me about this company. And so that knowing someone was really helpful. And then literally using HPLCs in the Formulation Lab, I was doing that my first job as well. A lot of the basics from college, I was literally using at my first job. Down to like micropipetting. They were honestly impressed that I knew how to micropipette. So basic stuff like that we had learned in the last couple of years of college really was able to help me get my first job.
Yeah, I think when people think like sales or the business side of things, they expect you to have a business degree. But in medical device, it's very science oriented. And I actually have a few colleagues where, you know, they didn't get the science background like I did, and they were actually, you know, a business degree. And they spend a lot more time studying and trying to actually understand the science behind what's going on so that they can talk to these doctors. Whereas, you know, I at least have a baseline to start with because of this program I went through, and I have a better understanding of the terminology and the processes that go on. And so, you know, the business side, you can kind of always learn along with the job, but this major helped me just set that baseline with science.
I definitely agree with you guys. Like having a strong foundation allows you to just jump right into whatever role. And I think we are at an advantage to have a more scientific background, regardless of how much science we end up using in our day-to-day jobs. I also work a lot alongside people who studied communications, marketing, PR, and they have to learn on the job a lot of details about drugs and formulations and clinical skills that it doesn't come naturally to them. And it's just due to the fact that that's their background differs from that, but now they're in this particular industry where I feel like it's a little bit easier to kind of slip in and just like be able to use that kind of terminology and lingo so easily and be able to communicate that so much easier. So I really feel like no matter what type of environment you end up in your career, having a scientific background gives you an advantage regardless of how much science you use in your actual career. And I think that brings me back into what type of skills, and I know this is like a very broad kind of word, but what do you think like was one of the biggest skills that you have now that you were able to develop from being a student at URI or from some of the classes that you might have taken or some of the experiences that you had that allows you to be so successful in your jobs right now? Because all of you are really reflecting and congratulations, Rachel, about your promotion, but all of you are reflecting about really successful starts of your career. So what are those skills that you think are letting you guys stand out as pharm sci graduates?
I have something that comes to mind just because of the rigor of the pharm sci program. I mean, the first couple of years, you are pretty much in the thick of it with all of the other STEM undergrads. But then once we get into the College of Pharmacy and you're taking your pharmacy specific courses, it does get pretty rigorous, and you have to be disciplined and organized in order to do well. And I think those are skills that apply to any role after graduation. And it, you know, kind of became very clear when I first started my job that this feeling of being overwhelmed and things like that, like, it wasn't new to me because I had already been through that with the Pharm Sci program and learned, you know, how to stay organized, how to stay on top of my work. And it sounds pretty like vague, but it really, those are very, very important skills to come into your first role and do well and kind of show that you have things under control, and you're not just kind of all over the place with it being your first job out of college, which I think a lot of the times they may expect from recent grads. Yeah, I don't know if any of
I know, I was just going to say, like, 1,000% agree with you. That is something that I took from URI as well. Like, being extremely detail oriented is my everyday job right now.
Definitely agree. I think that the soft skills, oh, sorry, Anna, did I cut you off?
No, go for it, please.
So some of those soft skills, yeah, like are definitely transferable and things that we use in our everyday careers. So even when I forget who said it, but kind of the fact that the classes from freshman year, where they're kind of more general background classes, and everything from the time you're a freshman to the time you're a senior is kind of a build off of each other. So you're taking the knowledge and the skills that you learned in one class and bringing it all the way through until you graduate. Having the ability to do that and the ability to kind of pull information from those previous experience and projects is something that I use all the time in work. And again, it is kind of vague and like a soft skill, but I think it is really something that we were very well prepared for entering the career.
Yeah, I will say that, from taking the classes at URI, I find that I've learned how to ask questions. The class sizes are really small once you get into the College of Pharmacy. You're in classes of only 20, 30 kids. At least I did, I got really close to the TAs. The TAs were always open, able to talk, and then, being able to ask the right questions and have that right foundation helps you learn more. Because if you have no idea what you're talking about and you don't feel like speaking up, you're not gonna, grow as fast as you might want to. So definitely the confidence from that helped.
I kind of want to bring it back to the rigor of the course and stuff, and kind of learning to become a good student and staying on top of taking your notes and studying for exams. One of the first things my boss said to me when we were as a whole, as a sales team, was that he was impressed with, the amount of detail that I was paying attention to on our device and how I could present myself and present our device to the rest of the team, because not everyone was able to do that.
And honestly, just listing my courses on my resume really helped a lot too. They're like, oh, you know how to do this? And I was like, I did that once, yes.
It's the courses, it's the fact that we have to learn to do presentations, the fact that we have to learn how to conduct research, write a lab report, write an SOP, study the FDA, CFR. I think all of those things get done in those 4 years of college, that by the time you end college, you realize, oh my God, I have so many skills that I can bring to the table. And on top of just being a good student, which is maybe the hardest thing to teach, but it's something that pharmaceutical sciences teaches super well. Just due to the nature of the major. So I think leading into this, so I'm right now in graduate school, and I know that Rachel is pursuing a graduate degree, and I know a lot of students who'll be watching this are going to be wondering, in order to get a good job, do I have to pursue a graduate degree? Is that something that's going to be on the horizon at some point? And can you reflect on one of the reasons as to why you guys went straight into industry, or why you chose to do a few years of graduate school? I feel like people who are working in industry have a combination of both. There's some that are full experience and they have their bachelor's degrees and they're very strong, and others pursue master's or PhDs. So if you guys can reflect on that as we conclude, that'd be great.
Yeah, this is definitely something that I have thought a lot about and I'm still thinking about. When I graduated college, I was not sure what I would have gotten a next level degree in. And just because I wasn't fully certain what I wanted to pursue, I figured going into a career would help me figure out what I wanted to do. And if I wanted to pursue that more at a graduate level, then I would. But it's been 4 years now, and I'm actually starting to see that's a one question that I ask a lot of my bosses too, is what they would recommend after working with me and to get to that next level, what I might need for a degree if I wanted to get someplace or someplace else. I haven't actually found something that I want to do yet still, but I'm very happy with just having my bachelor's degree, and it's gotten me really far with that degree alone. So currently I'm not trying to pursue a degree because of that, because I love my job, because I'm happy with where I am, and because I'm still not sure what I would do yet.
Yeah, so I guess I'm kind of in the same boat, leaving college, I was definitely like, I definitely want a master's degree. It's going to open more doors for me. I think, but I also didn't know what it is I wanted to. I was thinking maybe I'll get my MBA, maybe I'll, go for an advanced science degree. So, I accepted a job in the industry, and I realized after about a year or two that my associate director only had a bachelor's degree. And I was like, okay. And he is the smartest guy that I know. He is, to this day, I've learned a lot of really great skills. I try to make my management skills reflective of what he taught me as my manager. So it really, once I started learning things in the field, I realized how valuable that is. The door's still not closed for me. Like Anna was saying, regulatory is always like a good degree to have in quality. So I've been looking at like quality assurance and regulatory master's degrees. They also have master's certificates if I wanted to take 1 or 2 classes here and there. Through my company, they sponsor us to take Harvard courses. They'll sponsor you to take your master's degree. So there's a lot of different paths to get where you want to go. And just right now, I feel like I'm learning every day. I'm gaining valuable experience, and I'm not feeling the need for it right now. But if I ever want to take a turn in my career and learn something else, I could definitely learn a master's degree and things would change entirely. So.
Yeah, with medical device, it's kind of a career field where you either need to know someone or you need to have the experience to kind of get that first job. So I spent a lot of my time networking and talking to people in the industry before I got my first job. I think what's nice is I have this background in pharmaceutical sciences. And so if I ever decided I wanted to take a turn in my career, no one can ever take away that education from me, and I could always pursue something different if I wanted to. But right now I'm happy where I'm at. I'm always connecting and networking with other sales reps. And I think to me, that's, what I'm learning in the field is most important.
I am in the same,
Go ahead.
I'm in the same boat. The door is not closed. I think if I were to get further education, I would probably go for an MBA because I am in marketing now. But from what I've experienced, you don't need it. The people that I work with, there's definitely a mixed bag where some people have further degrees and some people don't. And I think a lot of it is it's more important the experience that you're getting within that role and the experience that you bring to the role. Education definitely does open some doors that, I may not have the opportunity to if I didn't go for something like an MBA, but that would probably be much later on in my career. And I feel like at this point, I'm happy, like a number of panelists had said, where I am. And I think it's good to find a job too that will pay for additional education, which going right into industry after you graduate opens up that instead of, taking on additional college loans or things like that. So I think it's good to have the option still open though.
Yeah, I agree. I think a master's is great, but it's not needed. With this major, you can 100% get a great job with or without a master's degree. I chose to do the MBA because as I was graduating, it was like the start of COVID and everything was kind of in shambles. And I didn't feel necessarily very inclined to start job hunting at the time. And I also, because of COVID, had another year of eligibility to continue playing tennis for URI. So I kind of took the opportunity. I actually started taking master's classes my senior year spring semester so that I was able to finish it by May of 2021. I think it totally depends on your situation. If you want to pursue kind of more of a science-heavy research role, you can go ahead right into industry, or you can pursue your master's. I mean, I really think it just depends on the individual. I actually wanted to get into healthcare consulting. So for that, an MBA is definitely very valuable. However, I ended up going into the pharmaceutical industry. I see people with MBAs. I also see people, I actually quite often see a master's of public health. And then you a lot of times don't see any master's degree. You know, it totally depends on their place in their career. My manager right now has been working for big pharma for 25 years and is just now going to get her MBA. And there's absolutely no right or wrong answer, I would say.
I think the general consensus is that maybe for a lot of students that are watching, it's great that you don't have to do any further schooling to get a really good job. And for a lot of people, that's a good sigh of relief. College is time consuming and it's expensive, but to be able to see students that are coming out of the University of Rhode Island with four-year degrees, getting places in their career, and then even offered the chance to have a paid graduate degree, it opens a lot of doors and opens a lot of minds to be able to really highly consider this degree. So I'm glad that you guys were able to reflect on that and to be in such great places in your career with just your bachelor's degrees.
Great. Well, Tara, let me jump back in because we're at about 1 hour now, and I truly want to thank all of our panelists. I've been fascinated to hear your stories, the successes that you've had already, the trajectories that your careers are on. I'm excited to see where they go next, and I really hope that we can stay connected so that I can find out all of the amazing things that you're going to do. I'm just so proud to be associated with the same program because of everything that we've heard here this evening. I also want to thank Tara for being an expert moderator. Thank you so much for arranging this tonight, and Aaron Edmonds, and for our guests who were online with us live here this evening, and for those of you who are going to be listening to this at some point in the future as it's posted onto the website. So I encourage you that if you have any additional interest in the BS in Pharmaceutical Sciences program, to reach out to us. We're very approachable. We're happy to and excited to talk about it. So please do so.